right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are super excited to be here for week 2 of our 5-week series. I'm Nicole Hutchison, owner and CEO here at Statera, and I'm with Dr. Linda Peterson, Life Purpose Health and Wellness Coach. And she has graciously agreed to do this 5-week series for me on Life Simplified. We get asked a lot about topics pertaining to personal development. And so this was the topic we chose for our spring Lunch and Learn series. Today, we're going to be talking about Life Simplified, Simplify Your Thinking. Last time, if you missed that one, we talked about, is it time to simplify your life? So it was a self-evaluation process to really think about where in your life you may be feeling the effects of being over busy, over scheduled, all of those good things, and then taking inventory of where in your life you could start to think about simplifying just a little bit. Today, like I said, we're going to be doing Simplify Your Thinking. And then for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be doing Simplify Your Space, your schedule, and your self-care. So make sure you join us back for those. We also have the worksheets online and accessible for you. We are in the process of building a new website. And so make sure you check on our website. You're going to see a link on our old website directly next to the video where you can download the worksheet. On our new website, you're going to want to look at the tab that says downloads, and then each of the worksheets are going to be listed under there. So if you have any trouble finding the worksheet, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. Linda or myself would be happy to send that to you directly. Okay, so are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. I came across this little picture and I absolutely love it. Nicole and I are both dog lovers, and we think our dogs probably have the mindset on the right, which is it's a great day, the sun's shining, and I'm out for a walk with my human. And then we're on the other side, of course, with our mind full of to-dos and everything that comes, all kinds of mindless clutter.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you, where do you see yourself there? Are you more of the mindful side, or are you more mindful? And a lot of what we're talking about today is really becoming more mindful. And if you remember on our first, if you saw our first one, we talked about a saying from Confucius: life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. And so the good thing about that is if we're doing it intentionally, we can also undo it, and we have control over this. So today we're going to talk a little more about some of the examples of things that we do to clutter up our minds and our brain, and maybe a few suggestions on how to manage each one of those. And so we're going to press the pause button and free our minds.
I think we should just practice a moment right now of mindfulness. So mindfulness seems to be such a buzzword these days, right? Everybody's talking about it, but it can be a little bit intimidating, not really knowing for sure what it means, what it is, how to do it. Are you doing it right? Right. And so know that mindfulness is just simply what it says. It is being truly present in the current moment, not being overly reactive to what's going on within you or around you. Okay. So we're going to practice just a quick 60-second mindfulness exercise. So wherever you happen to be right now, at home or at work, sitting or standing, I want you to start by just planting your feet firmly on the floor. If you're driving, listen along, and you can practice this when you're not when you're driving, okay? But otherwise, plant your feet firmly on the floor, close your eyes or soften your gaze, and take a nice, deep, long inhale. And then fully exhale all of the air out. Good, and you're going to take 2 more nice, long, deep breaths. Nice and slow, filling the lungs completely with air, noticing what the air feels like as it comes in, as it goes out. Allowing your thoughts to slow down. Very good. And now gently blinking your eyes open, commit to trying to stay fully present and aware during our session today. Each time you feel your mind wandering off, just bring it right back to that breath, and just give yourself a moment to take another nice, long, deep breath. And don't be frustrated when your mind wanders, because that's what our minds are made to do. They're made to think, they're made to have thoughts. And so it is not possible to completely clear the mind of anything. Notice even the dog was thinking about the trees and the sun.
And how
all
happy
right?
he is. Yes.
So don't be frustrated with yourself. Give yourself some grace and compassion, and just gently bring yourself back. All right. So let's go to the next slide.
All right. Excuse me. The first thing I want to talk about is monkey mind. I don't know if you've heard that phrase. I've heard monkey brain, monkey mind. But what it is, well, there we go. It's a Buddhist term meaning unsettled, restless, capricious, whimsical, fanciful, inconstant, confused, indecisive, and uncontrollable. And so I think a lot of times that's exactly what our mind is.
Yeah.
And a typical monkey mind is a lot of chatter. If you've ever heard monkeys, on a movie or at the zoo, they do a lot of chattering. And so here are some of the things that our monkey mind is chattering about. It's about reading off a laundry list of to-do items, listing fears, both real and imaginary, your mind recalling hurtful things that have happened in the past, your mind juggling the present, and your mind creating catastrophic what-if scenarios of the future. And when we try to give our attention to too many of those things, we spend our lives rushing from one appointment to the other, and we're focusing on what we have yet to do rather than what we're currently doing. So that's like giving our monkeys dozens of trees with lots of fruit to jump around on and chase. So that's why we're going to talk a lot about being able to slow down our brain. And you can do the next slide. Thanks. Or that one. And I think when Nicole talked about you can never rid all of the thoughts in your mind, here's why. And I just found this out actually the other day when I was putting this together. Let this sink in for a moment.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The average person has about 48.6 thoughts per minute.
Wow.
That's a lot of monkeys.
That's more than I thought it would be, actually.
It's a lot of monkeys swinging around in there. Okay. And that actually adds up to a total of about 70,000 thoughts per day.
And you're just thinking about it.
Yes. And we wonder why we're exhausted. There's a lot going on up here. And it's so important that we take time, just like our bodies need to rest at night and get good sleep for healing, our brains need to rest too. And so we can take control of that through managing our schedules, all the things we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks. One of the main things is not trying to do everything at once or think about more than one thing at once, because we know that we can no longer multitask. Well, not that we ever could, but people tried to convince us that we could multitask, and our brain really just wants to focus on one thing at a time. And so our body may be doing several things, but our mind is really just focused on one thing. So really trying to get away from the idea that we can multitask. Also, I was asking Nicole, what do you hear from the Geek Squad when your computer's not working? What is the first thing every IT person will tell you?
It's always unplug it, shut it down.
Shut it down, unplug, and reboot. And so everything works again if you unplug it for a while. That is true for your brain as well. And so we want to give you more techniques that you can try today. Thank you. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about is being here in the present. Again, that is about mindfulness. We spend most of our waking hours and sometimes in our dreams wallowing in the past or worrying about the future. Very seldom are we truly present with the people that we love the most, or in our meetings. We're rushing from one thing to the next. And so we have to remember that life can only be lived in the present moment. That is truly all we have. There are no guarantees about the future. We cannot change the past. And psychologists have found that when we linger too much and too long in the past, it really can lead to depression. And doing that, we so often think, well, why did that happen to me? Or I should have done this, or they should have done this, or that wasn't fair. They treated me poorly. We can't change that. We can only learn from that. And so learning the lessons from the past, then letting go and moving on is a really critical uh, lesson that we need to learn in life. And
Not
then
easy.
not an easy lesson, but a critical one.
Yeah.
To be able to let go. And when we carry around all that old anger and those grudges from the past, we are only harming ourselves.
Mhm.
It is not hurting anyone except us. And so
And
being,
it does manifest.
oh
Sorry,
yeah,
it does
no,
manifest, mentally and emotionally. And we think
yes.
about that, but we don't think about how it manifests physically for us
Mhm,
too.
mhm.
Illness,
Make us
disease,
ill.
pain,
Mhm,
all of those kinds of things can oftentimes truly be
mhm,
rooted back to unforgiveness is
mhm.
one of the biggest ones,
Yes.
actually.
Yeah.
So
And our body cannot tell the difference between when our mind is thinking about an old betrayal that
yeah.
we live through. Our body can't tell the difference whether it's happening now or if it's a past memory.
Oh,
And
wow.
so every time we go back and think about that betrayal, and our physical body feels that as if it's happening right now. And so we're hurting
I
ourselves
did not know
over
that.
and over and over. Yeah. So
Yeah.
forgiveness is a key. And that's a whole
It's a whole
big
other
topic that we'll do
Maybe
someday.
that'll be our fall lunch and learn.
Okay, forgiveness. Yeah, and the people that really struggle with anxiety, and we see that a lot, are typically focused on the what if. What if this happens? How will I respond to that? What will I do if someone says this? What will my response be? And really overthinking. And I was again telling Nicole about my mother. I love her wherever she is. I know she's hopefully smiling when I talk about her, but she was the queen of overanalyzing and trying to think of every what if scenario and being prepared for everything. And we truly do not know the future. It is not guaranteed to us, nor do we know what it will bring for us. And so most of what we worry about never happens anyway. Some of the worst scenarios
true.
that we create probably never could happen, but they certainly don't happen. So that is total wasted energy on our part.
Yeah.
And another thing about the past, I just saw this on, I think, I don't know if I'm crediting Oprah, but it was on one like her own network. It
Mhm.
said, in holding on to your history, you can lose your destiny.
Oh,
And I
wow.
like that because so often we destroy our happiness today and later by holding on to those grudges in our past histories. So
Yeah.
again, we learn from it, but let's not
Dwell.
dwell. I was going to say wallow, which I did on
Sorry,
this slide.
wallow is
Let's
good
not
too.
wallow. And one other thing is catastrophizing. It goes along with this wallowing and worrying. The catastrophizing is making something bigger out of a situation than it really is. And so using the words that we use are so powerful. So often we will hear things like, this was so devastating to me. And if you really start talking about it and thinking about it, was it truly devastating, or was it uncomfortable, or was it disappointing or frustrating? What's the real word that it was? And we tend to go to those theatrical words of like devastating, or so often I hear someone call themselves a bad person because they made a bad choice. And so
Sure.
again, they take it all on themselves as, I'm bad because I made a poor choice. And
Yeah.
so really watching our language is so important too, with
Because words have emotion attached to
everything
them,
is, yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so when we say words like that, that also causes an emotional response in us too, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it does. And I love this. If you could, put this kind of quote somewhere that you can see it all the time. I think it's very simple. Be here now. And it's
Yeah.
credited to Ram Dass, who I remember reading his books back in the 70s. I'm not sure if he's still around, but yeah, be here now. So if you need a mantra, something simple, I think that's a good one for all of us.
That's a very good one. Absolutely.
Okay, the next one is trying to control the uncontrollable. And
I love that you have the serenity prayer again.
I know.
We also had it last week. We may have that every week.
We might, because it's so powerful and so simple.
Yeah.
But God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that wisdom is, it's in us, but we really have to think about it. And I'll steal Nicole's line, but we're both recovering control freaks, and we're not fully recovered yet. And so
It's a long process.
it's a long process. But thinking that we have control, or that we are in control of all things, is really an illusion. There are very few things that we truly have control over. And, as humans, we don't like uncertainty. We do not like the unexpected to happen. And so we try to control as much of our lives as we can. But the only thing we really can control are thoughts, perceptions, our reactions, our actions, and our choices. And so we do have control of so much, but we cannot control other people.
Right.
And when I hear people getting upset, frustrated, it's usually they're trying to control the outcome of the situation, or the behavior of another, and frustrated because they can't get that person to agree with them or change them. And so we have to remember that there are many things we can't control.
But we also have many things that we can control.
Yes. Right.
So we have to change our thinking about what we can and can't control. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And one of my favorite words is surrender. I use that as my one word that we talked about last time a couple years ago, and it is a powerful word. And sometimes people think of surrender like in a war is a bad thing, but probably one of the best things we can do for our peace of mind is to surrender, especially surrendering control of things we truly can't. It gives us peace, calm, and a more expansive view of the world, and clarity. And so one of the things that I had to remember was that I didn't control other people. And so I had a screensaver that said, "It's time to retire from CEO of the universe." And
I
so,
absolutely love that.
yeah, I had it on my screen for a long time because it took a long time to sink in.
I tell you though, putting a screensaver on is a really good way
It is.
to remind yourself of something like that. I once had somebody tell me I needed to give up my Superwoman cape.
Ooh,
That's always stuck
yeah.
with me. So I always have to remind myself to let go of the Superwoman cape. But
yeah,
maybe I should make that my screensaver.
Well, I like this too, the serenity prayer, or be here now.
Yeah.
Anything that reminds you to slow down.
Yep.
Yeah. Big stop sign or yield.
Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
For sure.
Okay, another one we do is we hold on to limiting beliefs. And these are such powerful and interesting things. What they are, they're assumptions or perceptions that we have about ourselves and about the way the world works. They're self-limiting because in some way they're holding us back from achieving what we're capable of achieving. And these can really start very early in life, very, very early in life. If you're raised by people that think the world is a scary place, you're going to have the limiting belief of fear that it's scary to be in the world. And we may not even be aware of these. And in most cases, we're not aware of what our limiting beliefs are. But if you hear words like, "I'm not worthy of," or "I'm not lovable," "I'm not good enough," "I'll never be," fill in the blank, "I can't," all of those things that limit us from even trying being the best self that we can be. And so the great thing is these things can be changed. These beliefs can really be changed. The first thing is to acknowledge it, and you have to almost become an investigator in your life. And I always say in any change, any positive change, awareness is the very first step. And so being aware that there's something off, there's something holding me back from doing what I want to do, then we can start digging into that. And sometimes you can do that on your own. Quite if you're not used to doing the process, quite often you may start with a mental health therapist.
Mhm.
You can start with a coach or
It does really help to talk to somebody who
Yeah.
has a perspective, an how do I say it, an outsider's perspective, non-bias,
Yep.
maybe perspective is a better way of saying it. You can always talk to, a spouse or loved one, somebody that you trust, a pastor, somebody as well. But I do think having somebody, especially in the beginning, having that unbiased kind of perspective is especially helpful.
So often our family and friends just want us to be happy.
Yeah.
And they're not always able or willing to give us the honesty that sometimes we need. And so
Right.
having
Or
someone,
sometimes it's harder for us to believe them too,
True.
maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we think, well,
You
you're
just-
my mom, so you have to love me and tell me how good I am, right? So,
Yep.
yeah.
So, some of the questions like that you can ask yourself, and the issue of being worthy of happiness, worthy of having the body that we want. I hear it over and over in coaching that I'm not worthy, and not understanding that you're worthy just because you are here. People think they have to do something to be worthy. And so, or lovable, feeling unlovable. So you would ask yourself things like, is this really true? What proof do I have of that? What evidence do I have otherwise? And
Yep.
so often we do live with blinders on, and we only see things that will reinforce what we believe. So really
Yeah.
opening up, taking the blinders off and saying, wait a minute, is this really true? And then is that belief serving me? And perhaps if you grew up in an abusive household, the world was a scary place.
Right.
And so learning how to manage that and navigate that world maybe served you at that time, but you may no longer, maybe you are no longer living in that type of situation, but you're holding on to the same fears. And so that's where having somebody help you take a look at those. And like I said, they can be changed, and it takes time.
It takes repetition.
Yes. They didn't come to you overnight.
It's not a one and done.
No.
Right. So I always tell people I'm 50 years old. So this is 40 plus years of developing these self-limiting beliefs and the voices that I hear, right?
Yes.
The tapes that are playing over and over in my head. So it's going to take time. I'm not saying it's going to take 40 plus years necessarily, but it is going to take time and repetition to change those ways of thinking. And so a lot of times, and you may be talking about this on the next slide a little bit, but we're going to talk about the little voice a little bit, but as you're listing out, what are the things that I am telling myself or hearing, the tapes that are playing, writing those out. And then like Linda said, going through what is true, what is not true, what evidence do I have? I love the way you said that. But then my favorite thing you said was, how is this serving me today? And I think that's the most important question. But then beginning to change that to, rather than I am unworthy, I am worthy. And then I think that's what we're going to be talking about next, the obnoxious little voice.
Yeah. Okay. We all have a little voice in our head. In fact, there's 70,000 little voices running around, those monkeys running around in our brains. And sometimes that voice is really obnoxious. And sometimes it's our own. Sometimes it's past relationships. Sometimes, unfortunately, it was parents that had the obnoxious voice that stuck. And we tend to play those negative tapes, like Nicole said, over and over and over, and never really try to break free of those. And just like everything else, awareness that that's what's playing. And the people who have a really negative, obnoxious little voice, because you hear it, that you hear it coming from them, very self-depreciating. And like if you ask them, what's what's wrong with them, they can give you a laundry list. But when you ask them what's right with them, they struggle to come up with something. And that's not saying that there's a problem with them. It's just they've played this
Right.
tape so long and they feel hopeless. And it's kind of like a remote control. It's
Yeah.
a habit that you get into, but like all habits, we can break those habits.
Right. And it's not something that we necessarily do on purpose. And a lot of times we're not even aware
Oh, yeah.
of it. But
Right.
like you said just a few minutes ago, awareness is the first step. Just
Mhm.
recognizing
Mhm.
what are the voices that we're hearing and what are they saying.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite things to do in coaching in a very loving way,
In a
though,
very loving way.
is when I hear somebody putting themselves down, I will say, is that true? Or repeat that word to them. And they didn't even realize that they were using negative words to describe themselves over and over.
We
And
tend to talk to ourselves in a
Mhm.
way that we would never dream of talking to a good friend or anybody
Anybody,
for that
our worst
matter.
friend.
Right. And
Yeah.
so it is really interesting when you start to be more aware
Mhm.
of what you're hearing, what you're saying to yourself, and yeah, asking yourself if it's
Yeah.
true or not.
You can put up the next
Yeah.
one. So you can see there are two sides here. We can use those words like worthless, ugly, stupid, bad, no good, all of those, or we can turn that around. And I'm loved. All is well in my world. You're exactly where you're supposed to be today. I like that one.
You have what it takes.
You have what it takes. And for anyone who's watching that may be our age, you probably remember Saturday Night Live and Stuart Smalley. You know, I'm
what
good
did he
enough.
say? Yeah.
I'm smart enough, and gosh,
Gosh
darn it, people like me.
I forgot about
Yes.
that.
And so sometimes we think of that when we think about positive affirmations.
Right. It feels goofy at
Some-
first.
It feels false.
It does.
Feels false
Yeah.
because our brain's been telling us, that we're bad or unlovable for years and years and
Long
years.
time.
And so to say something the opposite of that just feels like I'm not being authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I really want you to, those of you watching, I'd like you to look at those two sides and where do you spend most of your thoughts? And I hope you're on the right side, not the correct side, the right. And if you do find yourself, beating yourself up a lot, do try to do some of the positive affirmations because our thoughts create our reality. There's the old saying, what we think about, we bring about.
Mhm.
And wise people have been saying some version of that forever. Some of the earliest writings talk about what you
Mhm.
let, what you create in your mind becomes real in your body and in your world. So
Yeah.
we truly have to look at our thoughts and our
Well,
words.
it impacts our own health and wellness,
Mhm.
mentally and emotionally and spiritually and physically, but it also impacts the way that we relate to others in the world
Mhm.
around us, right? So ultimately it impacts our work
Mhm.
and
Relationships,
yeah,
our work.
everything.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. I read something once and it said, tell the negative committee in your head to shut up. And
love that.
I like that too, because we all have that little committee and it's time for that committee to disband. We don't need them any longer. Tell the negative committee goodbye and know that you truly are loved. And let's start using some of those words to describe ourselves and others. Okay. Those are just a few of the things that we consciously or unconsciously do, sabotage our thinking and really clutter it up. And so we want to talk about, I think there's about 7 strategies that you can truly use right now today to get
Mhm.
started reframing all of this and getting some peace in your mind and some
Yeah.
space in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it creates a lot of anxiety to think there are 70,000 thoughts a day.
I know.
Where do you start? Right?
Where do you start?
Yeah.
Nicole,
all
where
right.
do we start?
Well, let's see what number 1 is.
Oh, slow down,
Unplug.
unplug.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes is stop the glorification of busy.
Yeah.
Because for some reason in this country, I'm not sure when it started, but
I don't know.
productivity equaled success equaled personal value.
Mhm.
And so maybe it's always been that way, but I just think things have, incredibly gotten faster. Everything's sped up. Sped up? Is it speeded or sped?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up.
Somebody email me and let me know which is right. Anyway, things are going so fast. And we've just stayed on that hamster wheel, the treadmill, trying to keep up instead of saying, hey, I'm jumping off. I need to slow down, because our minds, our bodies, our souls, our spirits all need to slow down and unplug. And we need that quiet time to regroup, to heal.
People today, though, are scared of quiet time.
Oh,
have you talked to anybody who?
Oh, everyone.
Like,
I have people that cannot put down their phone while they're in a coaching session because they may miss something.
Yeah. Or even driving home or being at home doing dishes or something. Do you always have the radio on or the TV on or
just
something
for noise
like that? Just because you can't take the quiet. It's interesting. You sometimes have to practice being in quiet.
Yes.
For it to become more familiar and comfortable.
And it's well worth that effort.
It is, for sure.
And then along with that, really single tasking.
No multitasking.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Again, your body may be doing it, but your brain cannot do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Not do it well.
And we talked about this last time, but if you missed it, literally science shows us you cannot do two things at the same time. Your brain cannot think two thoughts at the same time. It can think 70,000 thoughts a day.
Right.
But it can't think two at once.
But it's that monkey swinging.
Quickly, it's going
they're
side
moving
to side.
Yeah. It's not all at once.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things and we're going to talk about schedule in a couple of weeks, but one of the things that I always tell Nicole, her schedule is booked back to back to back to back to back all day. And so I try to get her to at least take 5 or 10 minutes in between appointments that she can close out whatever she was working on with this person and open space, breathe, and open space for the next person. Because we tend to carry all of that through the whole day and we're never fully present with the person or the people in front of us. And so taking that time is really important. And then really focusing on one thing at a time.
And I actually notice a huge difference at the end of my day when I do take that little bit of extra time. And it can literally just even be 60 seconds. Don't tell Linda. Sometimes it's not 5 to 15 minutes, but even just 60 seconds to breathe, kind of get closure on what I was just talking about, who I was just with, what I was just doing, and then be able to be more present and mindful for what I'm going to be doing, so that I'm more present. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference in how tired I am at the end of the day. Makes a huge difference in how my meetings go, how my relations with others at work or otherwise go. So yeah, it's definitely well worth it. I always now say, in learning from you, slow down to speed up.
Because we are not productive when we're trying to multitask. We are not creative. We're not productive. Yeah. It's just the opposite of what we were sold a long time ago, that you can do all of this. We really can't. And it's not fair to the people we love. So unplug when you can.
And single task.
And
then practice mindfulness. Yeah.
So, you want to tell us a little more about that?
We were talking about mindfulness earlier today. And like I said, it seems sometimes difficult because you don't know if you're doing it right or not. And it kind of goes along with our next one, practicing meditation. So If you find that practicing mindfulness or meditation feels a little bit overwhelming to you, you're somebody who wants to be sure you're doing it correctly, that kind of thing. There's lots of different ways you can begin to practice these things. So I love the picture that you have on this slide, the stone that has peace on it. Something as simple as putting a small stone or trinket or something in your pocket. And then each time you feel that through the day, remind yourself to take a nice deep breath and do a little bit of an inventory. How are you feeling mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically? And are you being present? How can you slow down? How can you stop the multitasking, the speed of the thoughts that are going through your minds? How can you be more present in that moment? Because like Linda said earlier, if we're constantly living in the past or the future, we can't be in the moment. And this moment is all we really truly have. Meditation, a lot of times I'll recommend going to see a coach, somebody who specializes in teaching meditation or heart math, something like that. There are also, apps for that. I know technology, we talk about trying to limit technology.
It's a good use for technology.
I know. So there are 3 apps that I commonly recommend: Calm, Headspace, and Insight Timer. I think are all really great. My clients have loved them in the past. Lots of others out there though. So explore, experiment, see what works well for you. Yeah.
Another thing for the mindfulness and the positive affirmations. Nicole makes jewelry, actually.
Yeah.
She just made the jewelry for the staff, something to hang on.
I have my bracelet on today.
Bracelet, earrings to put on a lanyard. And you can find these.
Oh yeah, I have my bracelet. Sure.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. And you can find those, anything that helps you remember what you're trying to do and keeps it top of mind. And also, like you can get the cute little things that hold one picture,
Oh yeah.
And printing off some words, like the be here now, having those in front of you where you see it every day, usually in the bathroom or bedroom when you're getting ready for bed, in the car. You can have it on your visor, or when you put your visor down. All these little reminders really do help
That
us.
reminds me actually of a funny story. I won't take too long. I had a coach one time that had me get a whole little stack of sticky notes and write "lighten up" on every sticky note. And I had to stick them all over my house, my office, everything, my car. So every time I turned around, I saw this little sticky note that said "lighten up." And my kids thought it was awesome at the time. I think they were like 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in that area. So every time they would see me start to come unglued about something, be anxious about something, worrying about something, Mom, lighten up. Yeah. It helped. I'm still recovering. Knowing what you can control. Yeah. We've talked a lot about that today too.
We have. And really thinking about it. We don't even think about it enough. We don't think about it enough.
We don't think about it enough.
It's usually not one of those 70,000 thoughts, but really understanding what you have control over. And if you find yourself anxious, try to dig down into that and just see, what am I really anxious about? And very often it's trying to control something or what ifing.
Or it's like you said before,
always.
it's living in the past or in the future. And thinking about those things that you don't have control over, right? Because the past has happened, can't be changed, no matter how much you replay it and try to, think about changing it. And the future, we have no idea. I know somebody who is always trying to go through every possible scenario. And you said your mom was just a little bit like that too. Yeah. And it's exhausting to me to listen to them. And it breaks my heart, honestly, to listen to them, because it creates so much stress and anxiety for them. I just try to reinforce and encourage how important it is to, this thing is happening and we don't know what the outcome is going to be, but the only thing we can truly control is ourselves, our own response, how we handle the situation. So
let go of, do what's right, do it with love, and let go of the outcome.
Ooh, I love that too. You have lots of good little sayings.
Well, thank you.
Challenge and reframe limiting beliefs.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about that too. But
Yeah.
again, the first step is to be, if something is not working in your life, it's likely there's some sort of limiting belief or faulty belief that you're hanging on to. And so you can do this yourself by stepping back outside of yourself almost and just observing what's going on in your brain, but also, seeking help, because some of those are very hard to break and they're very disruptive in our life. So asking for help when you need it from people who can give you honest feedback, loving feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Constructive criticism.
Yes. Yes.
Stop the negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Which stems from those limiting beliefs, right?
Oh, often, yes.
Or which came first, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I guess I never thought about that. I never thought
They're
about
just-
that before.
We're getting goofy here.
Wow.
Okay.
Time to wrap up.
It's time to wrap up. But getting rid of that old tape, it's time to create a new tape for you. Make it one you want and one that's going to serve you and not one that's going to hold you back and cause emotional problems for you.
I like that.
So,
make it one you want.
yeah,
I like that.
because your old tape is probably not the one you want
Probably not.
or didn't even record.
Probably.
Mhm.
Very true. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah.
Great information again today. I'm learning something new every time. Yeah, Linda is just awesome. So again, this is part 2 in our spring 2022 Lunch and Learn series from Statera Integrated Health and Wellness Solutions. Thank you so much for joining us today. I did forget to say, if you're with us live, you could have dropped questions into the chat box and things. And I apologize, I did forget to do that, but here is our contact information. Make sure you reach out and ask us questions. Give us feedback. We love to hear comments and things from our clients. So we would love to hear from you truly. And I do free 30-minute consultations if you'd like to learn more about Statera in general or have questions about all of the services that we offer. And then Linda offers free 15 to 30 minutes consultations for life purpose, health and wellness coaching. So you can meet Linda in person, learn a little bit more about what coaching really is and whether or not that's going to be a good fit for you. So make sure you explore those options as well. So again, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Our next one is going to be simplifying your space. Another great topic. Take a look around your home, your pantry, your car, your office, and start being more aware of all of the clutter that there may be that you haven't noticed before. And we'll be talking next time about how to declutter that just a little bit. So thanks again.
Thank you.
We'll see you
Glad to have
next
you with
time.
us. Bye-bye.